When we look at the remainder of this year and into next year, so the areas that are going to be most dramatically affected by the La Nina, let's first look at positive, at areas that are going to get more rainfall, more precipitation, more snowfall, depending on their area. Once again, as a reminder, we use rainfall as not a means that it will end all problems, but it can generate the ability to have more successful economies because you're taking care of those basic needs of your people. Eurasia in general actually gets better precipitation during La Ninas, and this is good because a lot of these areas really struggled. You look at Southeastern Asia, at India, they had horrific droughts because of the El Nino. El Nino's do the opposite. It makes it very rough on them. We saw it similarly in China. Now they're getting, with the La Nina, they're going to have more rain in China, in India, and Southeastern Asia, and parts of Russia. The catch of that, and we're already seeing this in China especially, is that these rains are coming in short, quick, strong bursts, and so we're getting a lot of flooding. And so there's been a lot of flooding problems in China. And in general, because of the patterns that we have in weather, storms in general are stronger. They come more fiercely. From the 60s through the 90s, if you got 10 inches of rain in the summer, it would come maybe over 6, 7, 8 rain cycles. Now you'll get 10 inches of rain one day, and that's it. That was the way that the drought in Texas and the United States ended, is they basically got flooded twice during the summertime, and then they didn't have water problems anymore. So, but in this case of the La Nina, we're looking good for Asia. We're looking at good water availability for Australia. But in a lot of these areas around the Eurasia, we also have to pay attention to the Indian Ocean. They have something called the Indian Ocean Dipole, which influences their weather as much as the Pacific influences North America's weather. And it's hot and getting hotter, and it's going to stay that way for another 3 to 6 months more than likely. So that's more energy. So a lot of this rain that we're going to be getting is going to come very quickly, very strong. And so when you're looking at countries in general, just as important as which countries are getting water or getting precipitation is how well can they use it or manage it. Do they have water reservoir systems in place, water collection systems in place? The countries that don't, it's not going to really matter so much how much rain they get. It'll be good in some ways, especially agriculturally, but because it comes and goes so quickly, it's not always the most dependable. Eastern Africa also is likely to do well. Western Africa should also get a lot of good precipitation. So that's kind of looking in the Eurasia area. Oh, and last but not least, when we look at Australia, Australia also will have good, strong rainfall, which is going to be good for them because they were so dry last year. The interesting thing actually with Australia, and this is something that I've noticed about that country, the country has such a small populace in each industry that they are probably the best of any country in the world at gathering together to be proactive against certain things. And so, for example, when we look at the scientific groups that research if we're having an El Nino or a La Nina, Australia is always the first to say there may be an El Nino or there may be a La Nina, usually 2 to 4 months before any other group is even considering it. And it's not so much that they're foolish or ignorant or that they, anything like that. What it has to do is, from my research and my belief at least, is that they're basically telling their small group, hey, we're going to have something that's going to dramatically change our weather. And Australia has the ability, better than most countries, to get kind of the industry together and for that industry to go, okay, well, we're going to have an El Nino, we're going to have severe drought. So what should we do for agriculture or tourism or whatever else? And so what it means is that when you look at a lot of the investment opportunities in Australia, it's very interesting because they don't go dramatically up, they don't go dramatically down, they stay relatively level with little peaks and little valleys. So if you compare that to, the exact same commodity in the United States, and it's jumping back and forth and going all over the place, and you look at Australia, similar weather problems, similar patterns, and it goes a little bit up and then a little bit down. It's not nearly as dramatic. And I think a large part of that has to do with that country in general can galvanize the troops, so to speak, in the industry to kind of create an idea on how to keep certain situations from making things that much worse. I don't know how long it'll stay that way, but I've noticed that throughout the years in researching the country and how they seem to react when they have extreme climate events.